Hi everyone. So, first and foremost, I want to say that this normally isn't a video that I would normally make, but it's been brought on in my heart that I should tell it, and so I'm gonna. So this is my testimony, my story, and also how I came back and really gave myself to Christ. All my life, I've always struggled with many things: loss, mental health, emotional health, abuse, and so many other things. But recently I had a very big change of heart fairly recently. So I'm going to start back to when I was 8. When I was 8, it was just me, an older sister, and also my father. And my mom, she was very sick, and she ended up passing away. All my life, my father had a lot of anger issues that were more towards my older sister than me. And when I was a teenager, I lost both my grandparents. I think it was 2 years apart. First, it was my grandfather on my father's side, and then my grandmother, also on my father's side. And my relationship with God has always, it's never honestly been something I ever thought about much until this year. So during the summer that my grandmother passed away, I think it was 2016, I believe, and I was in high school, and on this day, it was actually on July 18th, my older sister's birthday. Now, originally where I'm from is in North Carolina, and so on my older sister's birthday, we went to the Billy Graham Library. We did a tour, and at the end of the tour, there was an option where we can go into a room called the Asian room, or we can just always skip it. The Asian room is a room where it plays Billy Graham talking about making a decision to follow Christ or not. And it honestly very much spoke to me. And that day, I was crying and down on my knees. I felt like I was wanting to give what I was dealing with to Christ. I was struggling so much with my grandmother's and grandfather's passing, and still my mom's. And I was injured. I was dealing with a lot of head injury issues and struggling at the time that I did not see self-worth and so many other things. I thought that was gonna be it, but then months later I was backsliding, and so my father remarried, and it was very tough. And I've always had trust issues with my own father, with opening up to him and trying to be open. But what made it hard for me was really more of his anger, and also me constantly feel like how I feel does not matter, or I really do not feel this way, or I didn't feel the way that I felt. He always made me feel that way. And when I got more older, like more into my adult years, and after graduating from high school, we moved to New Jersey. And I know that at the time I did not actually want to move there, because this was back in 2019. At the end of that year, I was supposed to have surgery on my jaw because I have AMJ, and my father and stepmother, I'm trying to talk badly about them because I know that a lot of their reasons and everything are valid. Not saying that they aren't, just want to make that clear. They wanted to move up here to live closer to more extended family, and also to look for a lot more better opportunities and growth in so many things, and that is understandable. So we moved not very long after I was finished with high school, and I worked at a job called the Domino's. I was working, and there were things that I've experienced. I started to get into online dating. There was someone that I met, and he made me do things that I wasn't comfortable with and that I had no experience. And I just felt like I was pressured and moved into it. I was also trying to stay with my beliefs on things like sex before marriage, and not do anything like that, and not to give in. And when I was also a teenager, I was also at one point very much into the Bible and trying to spread God's word and love, but it did not last very long. I was also the president of the Bible club in my middle school in 7th grade, and so back to where I was. So the guy that I first met online, he honestly kept on pressuring me to do something sexual, pretty much forcing me. It was a very emotional thing for me, and it was very painful, and I hated it, and I hated myself for doing it. I felt so guilty and dirty, it was probably one of the most painful things that I went through at that point, but little did I know that I was also going to go through something so much more serious and more painful. Fast forward to about a year after 2020, in September of 2020, I met another guy online. Well, I talked to others, but this one is different. It was before him. So, it's where I met a guy that I immediately fell in love with, or at least I thought I did. I was young and naive and just wanted to be loved and to feel love. We really rushed into something so quick. Later on, I was realizing this was the worst thing that I've ever done in my life. So, not even a month after meeting him, we got married. And I have to say, before this, I did not even tell my family I was dating because I did not want them to be too involved until I was certain that this is a guy that I want to be with, because, well, I don't like to talk about being back and forth with dating. Oh, how I'm dating this guy 1 week and then we ended and then going on to another guy. I'm someone that doesn't like to talk about the same thing and changing it over and over and over again. I really don't like it, so I just thought maybe I should wait until I'm certain. But the thing was, oh my goodness. I feel like I just had a hard time pinpointing timing to tell my parents and my family. I tried to not behind their back. They did not know, and the night that I told them, so me and my at the time husband were in a hotel, and I told my parents I was staying at a girl's house, one of my friends, and my father FaceTimed me, and I was in the bathroom of the hotel. He came, he almost went and beat my husband up. Almost, well, I wouldn't say almost, but I know that he thought of it. And my stepmother held my father back. And that night, it was a very emotional night. Me and my husband at the time talked to my parents. It was a very intense talk. And things were so hard and dark for a while. A month after me and my husband found a place, and I gave him pretty much all of my money, and he combined his, and we got a place, and we moved in together. He honestly kept me very isolated. I couldn't talk or see anyone without his permission or knowledge. He always checked my phone. He was very controlling, even with finances. I could not buy anything without his permission or knowledge. That also includes food. I did not go to church, and he was really controlling so many things. And he would take pregnancy test, I think every month. He would literally be in the bathroom with me, watching me, making sure I'm doing it right. A lot of times it was negative, but I believe it was October of 2021. Something in me was saying that I'm pregnant, but my husband did not want to buy another test because it would always say no. So I went to a coworker and she got me one, and I took it and it was positive. In that moment, I was scared, not because I was scared of how he's going to react when I think of a way to tell him. He wouldn't be mad about me being pregnant, but he would be mad of how I found out. And at times when he's mad, he's very emotionally and verbally abusive. And I know at times whenever we're intimate, it's only whenever he wanted it. He wouldn't even ask me if I wanted to. There were moments after being intimate where I would just lay in bed and just cry because I'm in pain. And at times when I would tell him to stop, I'm hurting, he would not. And when I was pregnant, I was trying to think of a way to tell him and to hint to him. But before I knew it, weeks after I had a miscarriage, I was having very bad cramps one morning. And I went into the bathroom and I was bleeding. It's not like a normal cycle bleeding, no. It was definitely more darker and more thicker. I went to the bathroom and I saw it and I just cried very quietly. It was probably the very worst thing I felt like I've been through as far as loss goes. I don't think it gets any worse than that, in my opinion. And I just told him it was my period. I was hurting for so many days after. And there was a point where I was attempting to kill myself. I had pain pills and a bottle of wine, and I tried to swallow the pills with it, but I threw up, and I also tried to hang myself or choke. And when I started to cut myself, my husband told me I'm a terrible person. He held me in our bed and he said that to me. It was unlike anything I've ever been through. And he reminded me of a worse version of my father in a way. And I believe it was 6 months after I chose to leave him. I told a couple of my coworkers and also my bosses that I wanted to leave him. They helped me. I called my father and my older sister. They came and got me, and I told them that I wanted to leave him. So I left him and I moved in with my older sister and her best friend and his sister, and I stayed with them for a while. There was a time I had a very bad mental health episode, like months after, I believe, I other than myself at work. And I talked about it with my bosses, and they called 911. And I was in the hospital. My father came. We had another very emotional conversation, and when I was released from the hospital, we had another very intense conversation. I won't go into what he said, but it was something that I really did not feel like I needed to hear in that moment because of what was going on in my head. And then I went back to live with my sister and her best friend. It was very painful, but at one point I felt like I was slowly going back to normal. And I struggled also a bit with my sexuality. I thought I was bisexual for years, and then I went to be a lesbian. But a lot of these things I really struggled with a lot of self-worth. And I just kept on trying to date and trying to move on and to move forward and to fill a void in me and to fill my brokenness. I've always heard about God, but I don't think I really take it. There were moments I thought I did, but I really didn't. And fast forward to 2023, me and my older sister had to move back in with my father because we couldn't afford to pay rent in our rooms for rent. And I really felt like it wasn't a good decision mentally and emotionally because of how I've had trust issues with my father and his anger, and how I really feel like I was never heard or listened from him. And I don't think he actually really truly listened about how I felt. And I struggled with a lot of injuries with my feet and ankles and my head. And I've always had to work through it and ever really took much care for it because I had insurance issues and I just felt like that I needed to keep going for my father and also for other people. And then I met my now boyfriend. He's unlike anyone I've ever known or met. When I met him on Facebook, and when I first talked to him, I didn't think much of it. But he really changed so many things in me. He helped me in so many ways. There was a night where I felt very scared of my father because of him. He yelling and getting upset. I was texting Alex, my boyfriend, and I initiated it. We talked about me being with him, and the next day after work, I left with him, and I did not let anyone from my family know. The police were involved trying to find me because I wouldn't talk to them. They found me and notified my father, and the next day, me, Alec, my boyfriend, and his father went to talk to my father. And I opened up to my father, and like how I've done many times before, but really felt like he did not listen. I felt like all he cared about was being right. And he told me if I want to be on my own, then I'm on my own pretty much. And I got my bag, and he almost pushed me into a mirror, wanting me to look at myself. And when I was trying to turn my head to look at him, he almost pushed my head into a mirror. And he left a scar on my arm once. And after I left, I was on the verge of being homeless, but a friend of mine let me stay with him and his mom for a little while until December of that year. And my boyfriend found an agency, a domestic violence agency, and I contacted them and they helped me out. I stayed in a safe house. And after me being in a safe house for a month, I found a place in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and Central Jersey, rooms for rent. It was okay. It served its purpose. I was probably there for a year, from 2024 to 2025. And then I moved to a place in Monmouth County, New Jersey, which is where I'm still at. And during this time, from when I left the toxic situation at the time, I attended school online, college. I attended Ultimate Medical Academy, and I got my associates in Health and Human Services. And after graduating, I immediately went into HEHE GC, but there were so many things that was going on in my life with employment and also health issues and also environment issues, just a long list. And it was hard for me to do schoolwork. And then I found another school that I'm about to attend for my bachelor's in social work called Walden University. And this year, 2026, well, I'm going to start with December of 2025. I found it a very good job that I'm still with. Environment-wise, it's a very good environment. My managers and everyone is amazing. I work in healthcare. I'm a direct support professional, and I'm an ABA therapist as well for another agency. I work both with kids and adults and families. And this year I was in a car wreck, and my windshield was in very bad shape. At the time, it was very, very expensive. This was back in May, my car wreck. And I was trying to think of a way to get help with repairing it. I contacted churches, and there was this one church called Lincroft Bible Church, which I now attend, and some people from there came to my home to talk to me, and I told them a little bit about my story, about things that I went through. And I made a promise to them after my windshield is repaired, I'm going to start attending. And so I did. And I'm involved in a few ministries. One of them is called Spur. It's a ministry for college kids. And I met some of the most amazing people that are going to be long-term friends. And I'm also involved was involved in the women's Bible study group. It's ended now. And soon I might be involved in the children's ministry. Children is something I'm very passionate about. And I've always been I've always wanted to work with children in some way, shape, or form. I've always wanted to. And I'm going to. But fairly recently, with all of this with God, this year I really came more and more closer to God and with Jesus, and also with what God really is all about. From my story, it's not that I never believed in God, it's just I never really don't think I've invested in our relationship as much as I should have, and never really thought of it until this year. Recently, I had a lot of health issues with my stomach. I found it out. I have 3 things: ulcerative colitis, mild chronic gastritis, and intestinal malplasia. And I found out with that, I have a higher risk of getting cancer at some point. And it was something I took very seriously. And this year, I really struggled a lot more with loss. I lost someone very, very close to me this year. Her name is Miss Hobbs. She was my teacher in elementary school, my special education teacher. I'm high functioning autistic. We had a little bit of a drift in our relationship over the past years. And when she passed, I really felt guilty. And there was so many things going on in the background of my life. I was really getting more into contemplating my life. I was starting to self-harm again. I've self-harmed before. And one day I went to an event in Ocean Grove Beach called Beach House with Spur. And I was listening to a message, a sermon, and it really spoke to me. That day I really felt God's presence. He held me, and I felt my teacher's presence. They were saying that they forgive me and that they love me, and I chose to get baptized. And so I did, and I felt so grateful and so blessed. But I knew that I would have trials, and last night was one of them. And there was a bit of an issue, not with me at my job, but something with a client. and also with their insurance and things. It's been messed up. And mentally, with that going on, and me still trying to work and also continue to be independent and to give and also to care more about people. Last night, I really felt like I was about to backslide. I started praying. I was saying to God, I need to hear you, God. I need to feel your presence. And I was reading my Bible and praying, and I messaged my friends from Spur, and as I was praying, one of them responded. Me and a few other people from Spur met up somewhere. We had a Bible study and we were praying. We were so on fire for God's love. And last night I really felt and I really truly understood, really truly God's love. Last night I really truly saw I'm not meant to walk this road alone. I'm not meant to